where are you channeling it? Because if you're not channeling it toward the type of father you want to be, then you're going to be pulled into every emotional storm. You're going to be pulled into every fear. You're going to feel like a little bit out of control at times.
All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to Man Uncaved. Again, my name is Shane Coyle. Welcome. I am really excited about today, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I'm going to be introducing one of my mentors, the one that I really look to for holding space, just being from man to man. So I'm really honored that he's here with you and that everybody can get the chance to meet him and hear him. But let's just talk a little about you. So first of all, let me just put this together for everybody. Musician, amazing musician. If you haven't heard him play, he's amazing. So any instrument brings him, he'll play. Platinum music producer, a master in NLP and the MER. Is that the specialty within that?
Yeah,
so that has
MER
to
and
do with,
hypnosis.
Yep, hypnosis, certified breath work, cold plunge enthusiast. I don't know how to say that, but so I'm really honored, and I think really, how we came together was just a beautiful thing. This is maybe just over a year ago, actually, maybe over a year ago. I attended one of your and your wife's workshop where we kind of dipped into a lot of meditation. We did some breath work. We did a cold plunge. We did a sauna. It was just a raiment of all these things. It was like a 4 or 5 hour event that we just kind of powwowed and cried and held each other in. So, and it was just beautiful. And obviously being in the work myself and really just kind of gravitating towards you and how you held that space, you and your wife, and how you held that space. So again, really honored. And I forgot to add this. If all of that didn't tickle your fancy, I think you're the only one that I know that has climbed Kilimanjaro. So I just want to put that. That's probably a whole other talk show in itself, just a 3-day journey of that. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that if that didn't get you excited enough. So anyway, thanks, Mike, for taking some time out of your day. I know that you guys recently moved. So, kind of how is that going? Kind of settling in there?
Yeah, it's going really well. I feel like, we moved a little bit over about a month and a half ago. And we moved up to Auburn. Definitely a lot more land, a lot more stillness, a lot more. Our land is super quiet. The whole neighborhood is. So beautiful change of pace. We love the house. We love the area. And we've just been grounding into the space, getting things set up. And it's a pleasure to be here, man. I know we've been trying to get on here for a bit, and it's good that we're grounded here after the move. And it's so exciting to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. No, I know it's been a lot. I mean, you're busy, I'm busy, you're moving, and we'll kind of get into a lot of this stuff that's also been keeping you busy. So let's learn a little bit about you. Obviously, what a beautiful resume. I mean, just the dips and dabs of all the stuff that you really do. But also I want to know a little bit more about you and really what was a catalyst. And I'm sure there was many catalysts that really got you into doing the healing work, the transformation work, whatever you want to call it. I wanted you to hear more about your journey so people can understand how you got here.
Sure. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I've been in the music industry for a long time, over a decade professionally and well over a decade unprofessionally. As a kid, I was super, super in tune with pretty much everything to do with music. I mean, I was an orchestra, jazz band. I had 4 other bands, a ska band, a metal band, an acoustic band. And it took over my life in a beautiful way. And as I continued to pursue it, I went to college, ended up going to college originally for a double major in psychology and marketing. My idea was like, all right, if I'm going to go to college, I'm just going to figure out how to sell things and understand how the mind works. And I was always interested in that. But needless to say, most of my collegiate times were social capital. I was a huge partier, like top tier partier, and wore it as a badge of honor and a point of pride in my life. And as my music career continued to grow and grow and grow, it got to a place where I eventually moved out to LA in 2015. and came out here and was just like, go, go, go. I was touring at the time as a DJ and, getting to play these amazing stages and then moving over to producer and songwriter, which is really what I wanted to do, is develop artists and work behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I was an artist, I was really, I was exhausted. I'll be honest. I was living a certain lifestyle, and I actually thought that moving to the behind the scenes would slow my life down. And all that it provided was more time to do all the things that I maybe didn't want to do. Right.
Right. Sure.
But felt pressured, and I was pressuring myself. There's like a social capital aspect of, the industry itself. And so I kept doing it, and it was years. I mean, I started drinking and dabbling with things when I was like 11. So
Mm.
it was kind of a part of my life and a part of like what I had experienced as culture. And
Yeah.
so many, many times in the path of being on specifically the music path, I recognized that no matter what I achieved, I was feeling empty. I was feeling beside myself. I felt like I always had to be somebody else around other people. And truly, I just didn't even know who I was. I couldn't even pin it together, put it together on
Right.
who I really was grounded in. And so in 2018, it was kind of a combination of a breakup that was happening at the time. I
Mm.
was doing really well in my career. I mean, I was at the tippy top I was making so much money. I was working with incredible A-list artists all around the world, doing crazy studio sessions. I had started working with Steve Aoki around 2017, 2018. So I was flying to Vegas all the time, going to shows. It was a lot of stuff a lot of stuff was happening. Even in that summer, post this breakup, I ended up in Mykonos with Lindsay Lohan. It was crazy. I was living such a crazy life, friend of a friend type situation. And, but still, every time I'd have the little hit, I'd get like the excitement, and then it would go away and I'd feel alone. And so in that period of time, a gentleman by the name of Marco Hansel, I don't really know how to pronounce his last name, but this amazing human being, Marco, stumbles into my front door. He was going to be subletting a room, a friend of another friend. And the gentleman was he was vibrant. He was completely glowing. He was so happy, so clearly in tune with himself. And my first instinct is like, what are you on? What drug are you on? What are you taking? Are you drunk? Are you like, where are you coming from? You coming from a crazy
Right.
party? And he basically described this silent meditation retreat that he had just gotten back from in Thailand. 7 days in silence, meditating 10 hours a day, sometimes more. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. And it kind of happened. I wasn't necessarily fully seeking, but I was definitely calling in some answers in my life.
Right.
And I
Right.
just so happened to subsequently start some headspace, 3 minutes a day, the clouds in the sky kind of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And I propelled myself. A month later, I went to Hong Kong alone and did my first 10-day silent meditation retreat. That was like a really big catalyst moment, but it wasn't the full catalyst that like changed everything in my life, because what tends to happen, as you know, is it's really easy to fall back into old lifestyle patterns and old behaviors. So I would like try to hold the vibration of what I was feeling for as long as I could. And in the beginning, it was about 6 months. 6 months later, I was like, okay, cool. I guess I need to go back because I'm, feeling whatever I was feeling before. And don't get me
Mm-hmm.
wrong, that meditation retreat moved a lot for me. So I went back, and I went back again and again. And all of a sudden, I was on my fourth retreat, still feeling the same way that I was feeling in my life. Not during the retreat, but in my life.
Right.
I really didn't have the courage at that time to change the things that I needed to. And so that kind of went on, and I definitely had some growth points and fall back into the old lifestyle stuff. And then I would say really when it really kind of all came together was when the world slowed down in 2020, and I actually had spaciousness and an excuse to not go out. I mean, it wasn't even an excuse. No one was going out, right?
No one was going out. Yeah.
No one could go out. So I was already on a fitness journey. I was already boxing for like 2-3 hours a day. I was
Right.
hiking. I was getting involved with a lot more, I would say healthy habits. And that whole period of time, I started to open up a more conscious and intentional relationship with mushrooms. Took mushrooms for 9 months straight.
Wow. On
And
a high dose or like a micro dose? Where were you?
it was everywhere, man. It was.
Yeah.
I always laugh with people now that I know what I know around microdosing, is because, like, at the time I thought I was on I was
Sure.
microdosing, but I mean, I would take anywhere from 0.25 up to 3.5 random
Wow.
days. I mean, it could be one day I just decide to take a little more, maybe a little less. And my intention around that time was presence. It was simply presence. Like, can I be
Mhm.
with what's here? And one of those nights, middle of the night, woke up and got this kind of calling and this urge to start to research ayahuasca centers. Ended up going down to Peru, week in the jungle in Iquitos. It was as if like 2 years of searching had come to fruition.
Mm.
And I started to really see my life and see the choices I was making and see how they were not aligned with how I wanted to feel. I could see the relationships I was maintaining that were I had outgrown. Truthfully, I had just outgrown. Again, not in any like superiority way, just like we have different interests, there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. So that
Absolutely.
that really propelled me. I mean, man, I went down a rabbit hole. I sat with a tremendous amount of different traditions and medicines. I
Mhm.
opened up a connection to Akashic records and to Theta Healing meditation practices, which is a
Mhm.
limiting belief guided meditation. I started to work with breathwork on a daily basis, anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours.
Wow.
And it was just, I took integration like a full time job. I had all this spaciousness, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And it gave me some context on what was so dissonant about how I was working in the music industry. It wasn't music that was the problem. It was
Right.
it was how I was working. It was how I was working with my creativity. And so that was like 2020, 2021. And then moving through, I mean, it's just been skill acquisition after skill acquisition,
Yeah.
like retreat after retreat. And there was definitely like a really deep 2 year pocket where I was just going hard. I mean, I was just
Yeah.
going so hard with everything. I would take the most amount of everything. I was looking for new modalities. I had multiple mentors, spiritual mentors, and all
Right.
different types of mentors. And at one point, it became really abundantly clear that I was being kind of invited to a path of service. And I had
Mm.
already kind of been doing that. I mean, in the music industry, I've always was the guy who linked people
Right.
together with not needing anything. I didn't need anything out of it. On top of, like, I was starting to think, like, what do I really love about the music sessions I have? And beyond the creativity, it's the connection.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
sitting and talking about life and helping people, and also listening and learning about how I can grow and growing through the session itself. Fast forward, it brought me down this whole path of getting into the breathwork facilitation space. My wife and I started hosting our own breathwork meditation groups and workshops,
Mhm.
and that's where we met.
That's where we
And
met.
the original version of those workshops were just Eileen and I loved breathwork. We had a coach, and we were like, let's do a family ceremony
That
space,
was
whatever.
beautiful. It was a beautiful experience, actually, what you
And
guys put together. Yeah.
thank you. And that was like an iteration of just the intention to want to share breathwork. That's all.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even in the beginning, we weren't even holding space. We weren't yet fully trained. So we had somebody that was fully trained, our teacher Cora at the time,
Mhm.
helping us out. And then we went to training. My wife and I, we went to go sit with more medicines. We sat with the Huichol Indians. We sat with the Shipibo Kanibo. We sat with so many different amazing traditions, as well as started to take note on what modalities and what frameworks really we resonated with. Really, it was a combination of all of that alchemy of self-discovery and personal growth in my own life that propelled me into a position to hold space for people in a more formal way. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, I'm always in a state of learning. I'm always in a skill acquisition, always
Yeah.
digging deeper, always. I think now I feel a lot more grounded in how my approach is. I take a lot more time to integrate things. I am much more I got lost in a little bit of the ethereal stuff for a while.
Mhm.
And I think it's pretty normal for people that get into a spiritual path to get a little bit lost in like the woo woo heady stuff.
Yep. I can be. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong inherently with that. But what I did notice was like the one question that kept popping up for me was, how does this apply to my life? What? And no matter what space I was in, no matter what amazing transformation I went through, that was just 10% of it. 90% of
Right.
it was my waking life, the mundane, the challenges that arose. And so I
Right.
started to look for frameworks and mentors and coaches and teachers to help me
Yeah.
integrate and apply the learnings that came through these tremendous experiences. And so that's essentially what I do with people now, is like whether the transformation is specific to our container, meaning we're focused on the breakthrough session or breath work or whatever it might be in the alchemy of the container, or it's that they've already been on the path and they're looking to go deeper and integrate and create habits and behaviors and strategies around that are going to help them live the life they want to live, feel what they want to feel, see what they want to see, hear what they want to hear in their life.
Right.
That's how I work with people, and I absolutely love it. It's a gift, and I do wear that with a badge of pride and honor.
Yeah.
And it just infiltrates every area of my life. It's like, you know how it is. It's
Yeah. Absolutely.
how I view the world now. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's been a hell of a journey. I still work in music. I'm still a producer and a songwriter, and work with people in the creative side. But a lot of
Right.
what I'm focused on are transformative experiences through those sessions, through those retreats, through those immersions, and those coaching containers.
Let me ask you a couple. Thank you, Mike. That was beautiful, man.
Of
And
course.
and it's also great. And it's apparent. So for those that don't know, working with Mike, what he spoke to was the integration, and it comes through with this guy. And that's what I was saying in the beginning. And again, every coach needs a coach, every healer needs a healer.
Mhm.
All these people, we all need to keep. I always like this idea of I'm on the wrong side of my face. And I'm on the wrong side of my face, and I need people to show me because
Mhm.
I'm in my blind spots. And Mike is definitely one of those men that has really held, and I love that word, container, in helping me see
Mhm.
those spots that look, I don't give a shit how long we've been doing this work, right? There's still room to grow. There's still
Mhm.
space to evolve. I mean, I think, and that's what life is about. So the integration part is the necessary thing because I get that, out here in this, and it's great. And I can float out there all day,
Yeah.
but I don't live there, right? I don't live in the cosmos all the time. I have to operate in this physical form. I have to operate in this humanness. And I think that's where I think what you're calling to is that integration part. It's
Yeah.
beautiful, and I can be in the woo too, and I can live
Sure.
there. But in this connection from human to human is where we have to operate, 90% of the time.
Yeah, it's
So,
it's where all the information comes in, like
right.
I found myself for many years it was kind of convincing myself that I was doing this like deep work. And it's not that I wasn't, right? It wasn't
Mhm.
that I was ignoring my problems,
Right.
but it would always have to mean something spiritual. It would have to connect to something bigger. And what I found was I was kind of spiritually bypassing myself. I was
Mm,
bypassing Mike and the responsibilities that I have, and the relationships I hold, and the goals that I have set out for myself, whether that's directly associated with my purpose or it's just directly associated with resources for my
mhm.
family or for my ecology, whatever it is, it's it became clear to me. And so again, I can go down K-holes of philosophy. I can go down K-holes about spiritual essence and alternate dimensions and Akashic
Mhm.
record readings and all that stuff. And I think it's brilliant and I think it's amazing. And I still hold true to that connection. But again, like you said, we're human beings. We're here to learn through this body. And so my work has been a combination of both directly associating in the humility of being me and dealing with what I've been through as a human being, and then also disassociating healthily to see a bigger picture, to have
Yeah.
that kind of 35,000 foot view where you see your life and you see the context, but you have to know how to move through back and forth from the flow between the two. So
Yeah.
I needed to feel more, to wholeheartedly. now I've been opening up even more and more to that, especially with my son.
Yeah, I do want to get to that. So we're going to pause just right there because I do want to go into that because I think this is a lot of the work that I'm really excited about what you're bringing in. I'm going to let you do that because that's yours. That's your baby to talk about. But just on that, and I think just to complete this last little talk that we had, I think that was one of the meaningful ones. And there's been many meaningful ones with you, Mike. But one of the ones I think was in the very interim of our meeting with each other, and you said there was a lot. I can't verbatimly say exactly what you said because it was so elegant at that time, but the whole understanding of it was was exactly that. It was a lot of out, and now it's like here.
Yeah.
And again, in what we were just kind of describing, but it was coming back into here, and you said it in this beautiful way, and it was just this light, and there's been many lights with you, let's just put it that way.
I
Things that
appreciate
you
that.
say. And actually some of the stuff we do, we've had many conversations where I think, and actually at that workshop with you and your wife in the beginning, we ventured into this very spiritual, we come back here, and I love the flow of it. So
Absolutely,
I
man.
appreciate you. Yeah, it's so good to hear more of that. Now
Yeah.
I like to, because yes, you just brought up you and your baby.
Mhm.
And I think that has been somewhat of another kind of like a rite of passage, a new opening in your own development as self and being this brand new father. And from father to father, I can understand that. So I would love to hear more about that journey and kind of, your visions behind that and maybe kind of what
Yeah.
you're doing with that work. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So before I dive into that, because it is, it's kind of a parallel to it. It may have been this concept when we were talking in that moment of living vertically versus horizontally, right? So
Mm-hmm.
living vertically just means being in your own space, your own energy, your own body, your own heart.
Right.
And what is really interesting is when my son came to us and, he was born, and there's a whole portal of pre-fatherhood fear and all this stuff before fatherhood. But when he came, there was like this understanding that if I'm going to lead my son, and he's so young right now, but I think every moment counts. If I'm going to lead my son to be self-sufficient, then I need to lead by being self-sufficient, meaning I need to take care of my own heart. I need to give space and time, have healthy habits, all these things. So living vertically so that I can live so deeply horizontally and pour from
Sure.
that full cup. So with my son, it has completely opened up so many depths in me as well as in my wife. And
Mm-hmm.
again, we're always doing this work. It's not like, I think people in the beginning are focused on a fixed destination. Like if I just get there, if I get this awareness, or if I clear this
Right.
out, I'll feel this. And it's not untrue. At the same time, this path isn't a fixed destination. It's an
Right.
ever evolving, moving target. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I can say is my son coming into my life completely gave context to everything I'm already doing. It lit all the shit up that I shouldn't be doing, that I'm still doing, right? And that was the whole portal of becoming a father and the pre-fatherhood period, as well as like a little bit of the post too. And it's always happening, in subtle ways.
Right. Right.
And then also clarifying, like, where is it that I'm leading my family and myself? And one thing I said I was on another podcast, and I said something along the lines of like, I think oftentimes, I mean, this is clear for everyone. We don't want to be like our parents. So we do everything we can more deeply so that we're not hurt in the same ways, or they're not hurt in the same ways we are. It's
Of course.
natural psychology, right? At the same time, what I'm beginning to learn more and more about is that I truthfully do not have a vision for my son. I don't have a vision of what his life should or shouldn't be. I don't have a vision of what he's supposed to talk like or not talk like, or what he's going to be interested or should be interested and isn't interested in. I have a vision for myself and my wife. And
Yeah.
when we hold true to that vision, we're able to guide in a much more visceral way by being the example, right? So if
It's
I want
beautiful.
my son to have, for instance, if I want to gift my son the opportunity to be emotionally intelligent. Again, opportunity, because it's always a choice. There's so many variables, but just the opportunity. Teaching him the skills is one thing, and of course I will. But being emotionally intelligent will show him in
Absolutely.
a whole other depth, right?
Yep.
Being
Yep.
responsible, being accountable, being loving and kind, being forgiving is going to be a lot more important than the words that I speak to him, or
Mm-hmm.
even the places I bring him, right? And
Right.
so when I really think about our lives, I really consistently gravitate around this idea that if I can stand true to a vision of myself, a vision of Eileen, and then just a vision of our like family container, not him, but our whole container of how we would like to operate. And of course, you know, as fathers, we set boundaries, we set structure, we have to put some type of stuff around it, right?
Right.
I'm not going to watch my kid run into traffic. I'm going to be like, hey, bud, you know, it's a teaching moment. And
Right.
also honoring that this whole being's coming in, and I want to honor the being, not the projections that I have.
Right.
So I need to address my own projections then. I need to address my own deep, you know, shadow and animus work within myself, within my wife. Though all of that, plus the spiritual content, the energetic content, and even the limiting beliefs that are present, that are still present, that are subtle, right? Even
Mm-hmm.
in the way that I interact with my family and setting that example, there's so many depths to it. What I can say is, and you know this too as a father, having a son specifically, but having a child grounds the shit out of you,
Oof.
because no matter where you're floating in La La Land, you have clear responsibilities at the very least to keep this child alive, to keep a roof over their head. There's like
Please.
you know, it's like there's real human things that you have to
Yeah.
set up insurance, you have to do all the things, right? And sometimes there really isn't like a spiritual context to it. But what I found in that is that there you can look to those as an opportunity to grow, right? For
Sure.
instance, if I call insurance and I'm setting insurance up for my son, and I'm sure you've experienced the craziness of California insurance. It's like
Oh,
all over the
yeah.
place. You know, I can choose to just set up insurance, or I can choose to look to it as an opportunity to build patience. Because my
Mm-hmm.
son is going to be in a position when he's older, whether he's getting insurance or talking to someone that may or may not be helpful, to find it in himself, to still be patient in those moments. So again, it may not be extremely spiritual to be on the phone with an insurance agent, but there
Mm-hmm.
is an angle that you can approach it. And I've approached every single angle with my son as not only an opportunity to grow myself, but
Right.
also as an opportunity to show up fully for him, fully.
That's right.
And
That's
I
right.
mean, like, being able to just play with him with no prerogative, like just be in that play with him. And of
That's right.
course, the byproduct of that, it's extremely healing for our inner children. It's extremely healing for
You're
even
playing. Your child is playing with his child. That's what's so
exactly,
beautiful. It's that a beautiful
exactly,
exchange, right? Yeah.
absolutely. So, you know, the more, and again, that can happen naturally, and it does, and we can get caught in the responsibility and the weight of being a father. So it's a
Correct.
combination of grounding into the clear responsibilities you have, not taking all of those responsibilities too seriously as to take away from the moments that you'll be able to connect and play with your children, with your son, with my son. And
Right.
so it's this kind of dance. It's like which is a parallel to life. Like, you know, there's moments to be in the seriousness. Like if someone comes to me and they're a client and they just lost their parent, like I'm not going to sit there and crack jokes. You know,
Right.
I'm gonna hold space, and you know,
Right.
I'm not gonna give them maybe advice if they're asking, but I'm not gonna sit there and coach them. They just need space to
Right.
be held. They're
They just
going
need
through
the
a moment,
space.
and
Correct.
that is a serious moment. And then there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that we label serious that aren't that serious, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So my son's been teaching me that, because
Oh my gosh. Thank you for calling that. Yeah.
yeah, his ability to move in and out of emotion like water is mind blowing. It's mind
Yeah.
blowing, and it shows you that there is, first off, there's space to feel emotion always. There should be space to feel emotion. And how quickly you return to a semblance of presence out of, or even if you're present with the emotion, if you're truly present with the emotion, you'll eventually change into something else. And he does
Right.
that. He'll be like, he'll go through a crying spell for like 3 minutes, and then I'll make a sound and he'll be like, and that's
Yeah.
it. He's out of it. And
He's out of it. That's it.
it's not even about distraction. It's about, in a way, redirection, but it's just his presence is so visceral.
Right.
You know, I've been, both my wife and I have been learning a lot from him and continue to learn a lot from him. And, you know, I think that's what we're going to continue to hold in our prayer and in our awareness and in our intention is, yes, we're here to set up bumpers so that he doesn't get hurt and he learns the things that are going to be helpful for him. But at the end of the day, we're sitting here with probably a being that's much more connected than we think we are. So,
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that's what these little people are teaching us. And, you know, and again, just from father to father, I mean, our kids are at different ages, but still I'm learning this patience, this acceptance, this just being in that moment, because that's all they really are, is in that moment.
Yeah.
And, you know, my son's name translates to gift. And it's that idea is because he keeps giving me that gift to show. I mean, speaking from the example, right? They're in the present moment, say they're playing with Legos, and that's what they're doing. They're playing with Legos. I'm building Legos.
Yeah.
The person that's anxiety driven and thinking about the next thing that we're doing is me.
Yeah.
And it's a moment, right? It's me, the one that's like, oh, how long do we have to build this castle for? I mean, are we right? It's my impatience. It's my stuff that I'm pressed up against. It's my edge, like you say. And at that moment, the gift right there. Oh, wait. And then he teaches me, be here now. All that is not important. You know, the calls you have to make, the work you have to do, the dishes you have to do. Right here is the importance. And even if it's for that hour or even for that 45 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, if you give that presence, it's everything. Your whole world opens up. And these little beings are like teaching us this all the time. And it's just so amazing to witness. So I agree with you. I would imagine too, I mean, if, you know, not only is he teaching you and your wife, but you and your wife are also learning in the engagement now with this, you know, this extra person here.
Yeah, it's a whole new dance. And one thing I'll touch on, kind of what you were saying, that was really beautiful, is my wife very gently pointed something out to me that I wasn't aware of. And it was super simple. Marcelo is playing with a toy, and he's in a position now where he's able to kind of entertain himself, right? Now, there's two things popping up when I go and do this thing that I'll talk about in a second. So I'll go and I'll go play with him, right? And my wife, I'll talk about those two things, but my wife said simply to me, hey, so when he's playing, let him continue to play with what he's playing, and then when he moves on, that's an opportunity. And I started to think about that, and I was like, okay, where's that coming from? Where's my need to go and, like, you know, and it's love. I want to go hang out with my son. That's undeniable. And there's a subtlety of needing something from him, right? Needing to create a moment with my son when he's doing his thing. He's out there playing with his toy. He's completely immersed. It's like I can learn so much by just watching him play. I don't need to infiltrate the moment.
Right.
It's a really subtle thing that my wife had pointed out to me really beautifully too. And it completely changed the game. It also helped me as well. It helped me when I am taking care of my son. You know, I think the tendency is that when I was first a father, I wanted to like make sure he was good, entertain, all the things. And like sometimes at this age, sometimes my son is just doing his thing. I don't need to do anything. He's just doing his thing. So
that's right.
Why am I not doing my thing? You know what I'm saying? Like whatever that looks like, whether it's just sitting silently or it's maybe there's whatever it looks like. And so it's helped me shift as well a really beautiful balance when I am watching him of those moments we do share. And you know, every morning I have a moment with him, which it's like my favorite thing in the entire day is like turning over. He's like just waking up and he always smiles right in the morning.
Yeah.
And you know how it is when they're that age, like they're kind of like just like for him, he just kind of chills and looks. He's not yet getting active and moving his body. He's just like, and I'll smile and I'll go over it. And those moments are so priceless for me.
So priceless.
And I've also let go of the need to go and be a part of what he's doing, which
Right.
back to my original point, if I want him to be self-sufficient, then I have to be self-sufficient.
That's beautiful.
As far as my relationship with Eileen, yeah, I mean, it is a huge recalibration,
Yeah, I'm sure.
not only individually, but as a relationship. And like time was a really important thing that I needed to learn, like respect and reverence around, and take back
Hmm.
my agency around my time, especially because if I don't, it's just a domino.
Hmm.
And at the same time, also propelling us forward with my wife and I, like setting up date nights, setting up times where we do
Right.
connect and being more in that dance. And it takes time, first 3 months, it's a lot of transitioning and a lot of mom and child moments, because that's what the baby
It's needed
wants.
at the moment.
It's
Yeah.
what's needed.
Yeah.
But Eileen and I, part of the beauty of moving up here is the spaciousness we have. And we just
Right.
onboarded, we haven't had a nanny at all since till this point. And we just found an amazing, amazing nanny. She has a 2-year-old. She like is in the same
Mm.
spaces as us. And so her coming over is also allowing Eileen some alone time to do the things she wants to do, take care of herself, whether it's meditate, work out, or just be outside on the hammock. And eventually, in the next probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we're going to have more of spaciousness for us. It's
Right.
kind of like the Wild Wild West for a while, because, you think the
Sure.
baby's going to stay asleep, and then all of a sudden mom's in and out of the room every two
Absolutely.
20 minutes or 30 minutes. So yeah, it's a great recalibration moment. It's a deep recalibration moment. And I think it strips away and pokes at all the holes, right?
Yeah.
In the relationship in a good way. We're in a position where, our son, he's aware, but he's not, communicating and observing in the same way that he will be in a year. So we
Right.
have this time, and we're taking the time with our respective coaches and mentors, as well as with each other, to make
Hmm.
sure that by the time Marcelo is communicating, speaking, observing more and more and more, that we're ironing out the kinks of our relationship.
I was going to call that. I was going to call that because there's many more, right? I mean,
There are, yeah.
it's many seasons of recalibrating as he's
Mm-hmm.
recalibrating in his life. You guys are going to be recalibrating as well, individually and as in that relationship. This is why I love that you're really building that now with that deeper understanding, which is going to get way into our one thing that I do want to ask you because of that
Sure.
preliminary work. But hold on that one, because when you were talking about this, I have this thing that I talk about, obviously working with clients and being, coaching and stuff and in this kind of healing arena.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this idea of knowing when to follow, knowing when to lead, and knowing when to wait. And
Yeah.
when you were talking about Marcelo, it's like that moment of playing, and it's like knowing when I need to lead it, knowing when I need to wait. Do I need to follow him? But also individually, right? We're knowing when we need to lead it in our own personal development of life. Where do we wait?
Yeah.
Where do we follow? And as well as the relationship. So this, I really envision this whole circle of, if you're talking about the unit and the family or whatever, and creating that. So it was
Absolutely.
a beautiful, yeah, it's a beautiful vision. I want to dive into, because I don't want to lose where we were going, because as we're really putting this and really setting that nice foundation,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of, like what you said, the internal work, the preparation individually. We started this journey with what was the catalyst for you, and really grounding into understanding how do I integrate this,
Mm-hmm.
and then the blessing of Marcelo into your life, right? I mean, obviously your wife too, but then
Yeah.
another blessing of this of Marcelo. And so I really want to bring this into this nice thing about where do you vision this? Because here you are, brand new father, you're seeing some stuff. I really would love for you to speak from that if you can, if you could take some time into your vision around that and fathers and
Yeah. So, one thing that was at the time that I was becoming a father, there were a few other fathers in my field. You were in my field. We hadn't yet at that point been like
right,
communicating more frequently.
right.
But and then there were some fathers that had had their children about a year before me. But in that time, I kind of felt like I was going through it on my own, right? And I had a coach, and he was very, very helpful, and is still very, very helpful. And we didn't work directly around fatherhood. We worked around career and masculinity, which was a beautiful kind of alchemical container that worked really hand in
Sure.
hand. Of course,
Mhm.
it positively affected me in all the other areas of life. But I was really I was searching for some kind of mentorship, right? At least some level of initiation, because the only initiation that was imminent was I was having a baby. That was the only initiation I was having.
Oh, no.
So,
That's all we-
the months leading up into his birth, I went on a diet in Peru. I started working with that coach. I was doing a lot of my own work.
Mhm.
And as it got closer, Eileen was taking some birthing courses that were really helpful. And I told her, I was like, the moment it starts to be things that I should know, just tag me in. And so I'll tag team it with you, and I'll learn what I need to learn. Really, it never got to that place.
Mhm.
Anything that was talked about with the partner, we were already doing. We're breathwork
Right.
facilitators, we work in the space. So we were already foundationally communicating on that level. So I started doing some research, and I was like, is there anything out there to help fathers prepare for this immense transformation that's about to happen? And I found a couple things. I took probably 3 hours of a course, and it was really about changing diapers and shit you could fucking find on YouTube, to be honest. It was $49, so I should have known. But the point is, I was like, where, what, again, some of my mentors, even my coach, he hadn't had a kid yet. My
Mm.
spiritual mentors didn't have kids. I was like, shit, I need some brothers who are fathers to lead me into this. I'm
Yeah.
so grateful that I really didn't have that at that time, because what I was able to figure out on my own was what really worked to help prepare me first and foremost for the birth, because I believe that the birth, whether you're having in the hospital or at home or in the middle of the woods, doesn't matter, or a birthing center, being grounded and present are the only two things you need to focus on. All
Mhm.
the information, all the stuff, less important. Grounded
Right.
and focused, present, right? So I did all the work around that. I was like, whatever is in me that needs to move and needs to be addressed and needs to be released and processed, that's holding me back from being grounded and present on my day-to-day, in my day-to-day, I'm going to work on that.
Yeah.
Plus communication styles, plus all these other things that I knew would be the foundation of preparing for what it's going to be like, not only as a father later, but also in the relationship. Because again,
Mhm.
what we're really, our role in that whole container of 9 months, and then even the first 3 months, is supporting our partner. It's supporting our partner. It's making sure they're good, making sure they're ready. They're going through way more changes than we are. We're going through changes, but they're going
Sure.
through, I always say, it's 95 to 99% the woman, and then the man is maybe 1% to 3% is your responsibility during that time. But
Right.
it
Right.
doesn't mean that 1 to 3% isn't important. It
Right.
doesn't mean that what you're going to be doing isn't going to be impactful. So after this whole period of time, after Marcelo came in and, shook my world, shook Eileen's world, shook our family's world and our ecology's world, and I was like, damn, I really need to make something. I need to create something, because I didn't have specific people to lean on or frameworks to lean on, including my own father, who I love dearly, by the way.
Sure.
And, he was a young parent. He did really well, all things considered, having me when he was 19, right? Did
Wow.
really
Yeah.
well. There wasn't as much support there, because he's also going through his transformation and his own stuff,
Sure. He's
right?
figuring his stuff
He's
out. Yeah.
figuring his stuff out. And so I was like, first and foremost, I want to arm people with the tools that I learned. I want to arm people, fathers to be, soon to be fathers, with communication styles, learning styles, with emotional intelligence and understanding what stoicism is, understanding the masculine
Mhm.
core, which is structure, safety, and responsiveness, understanding how to emotionally regulate and practices that help regulation. Again, to give them a foundation, because I believe that your habits, again, I'll talk about baggage and release work, but your habits are the framework. They're the architect. They're the architect of your life. What
Right.
you do on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you have baggage and you have things and traumas that you need to address, you could change all your habits. They're going to come back, and they're going to come back in all different ways, right? You're not going to feel what you want to feel as a result of your habits. You have to address the deeper stuff, and that's what I did.
Absolutely.
I have parts of the container. It's called Paternal Instinct. It's a 6-week incubator. And part of it is around release work and around how to work with limiting beliefs and what questions to ask yourself. And more importantly, to just become aware that there are things holding you back that are deeper that you have to address at some point, hopefully now before your kid comes in. And then you're going to address it later too. It's not like you're done.
Yeah.
So I brought 5 gentlemen through a beta group, and we finished up 2 weeks ago. And I created the whole course, kind of channeled it. I knew exactly what I wanted to be in the course, and I just kind of tested it with these brothers. A lot of all 5 people that I knew, some people that I hadn't spoken to in a while, but just like came through my field, all about to be fathers. 2 of them had their babies the day of the last teaching,
wow.
which was super epic. They got 5 weeks of really amazing content. And it was amazing. Everybody had a really beautiful experience in it. They learned something new through it, and that's the most important thing for me. It's not about absorbing every single intricacy of the teaching. It's like, as long as what this incubator is makes you feel more prepared for what's next and allows you to start to put some attention on some of the fears that are coming up. I think the number one fear for most fathers is being able to provide. That's like the number one fear. The second fear, after not being able to provide, is usually, will my anger come up? Will my stuff come up? Will I be like my father? Will I be like all that? Right?
I agree.
Which is equally as important as the first of providing. Providing tends to be the first thing. Everyone thinks, that everyone has the idea that babies are really expensive, and it's undeniable depending on what you want to do later for schooling and all that. It adds up. But like, truthfully, my son, he poops, he eats, he sleeps. That's what he does, right? Like, he plays with 6 toys. A lot of the time he wants to play with like other things that aren't his toys. He's really simple. Most babies are. They don't need a lot. So, but anyway, that providing aspect, and then the fear. It's just fear. If we want to pull everything into fear of not being able to show up, fear of not being able, it's just fear. So in this course, I talk about that, I talk about and try to take away some of the stigmatism around having those fears, because something that became really clear to me, even up to this past weekend, I had a immersion with a coaching client, and one of the things that came through was around fear. It's like, fear is sacred. Having fear means that first and foremost, you're growing, you're evolving,
right? Exactly.
Changing. And the fear can be an indicator, if you choose to look at it that way, that whatever is next is even bigger than you can imagine. Because when you're on the edge of a forest that you've lived in your whole life and you've never ventured out of the sequoias, and you take one step out and you look over the horizon and there's a huge forest, you're probably going to fear a little bit of that experience. That's good. It's good. It's good. It's not negative. Right. And so, a lot of it is around addressing and putting some energy around the fear, not necessarily putting energy into amplifying it, but more so putting energy around being intentional and aware of it. And then tools and frameworks that help you move past it. Like most communication between your partner and between you and a child is miscommunication. That's it. It's just one person saying another and hearing another thing, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
The communication styles I learned through NLP and some other frameworks, that alone is really amazing. Setting up an avatar of what kind of father you want to be, what kind of family you want to have, what values you have, all that stuff. You're putting yourself in a position where you're not just thinking about, I'll get to the birth and figure it out. You're like, okay, yeah, what I want to be during the birth, I can think and put energy on that. And beyond that, where am I leading my family? What kind of values are most important to me as a father? And that is the way that we weigh and measure our behaviors. And you just look at that. So it is partially to prepare for the birth. partially to prepare for your own transformation, becoming the father and stepping into that role. And then it's the third part of it is visioning into the future of where you're leading your family and
So good.
all the little intricacies around that. So yeah, man, I'm super excited. I'm getting into the filming and the course is done. I just need to go and film it and then post it, and then I'm going to start marketing and getting everything out there. But it's been in the incubator for over a year at this point. It wasn't,
Yeah.
and it's a passion project for me beyond just an offering. I'm really passionate about it because there's just nothing out there. There's nothing out there.
Yeah. And then I was really excited when you were speaking of it, and this is really also too why it's calling us together. I mean, obviously, this is a lot of my audience is kind of men. I mean, women can listen to some of this stuff as well. I think it's needed for everyone in the system to listen to it, but that importance for men. And speaking from my own, I'll just join you on that. From speaking from my own experience, obviously, and a little bit of mine. I have an absentee father. We don't have to go into all the detail. When I was about to have my child, I was scared. So when you brought up that fear, I felt it, right? I remember that moment of just being so scared. The fortunate thing, because I kind of accessed my transformation getting clean. I was 6 years clean at the time.
Yeah.
And I kind of held it with faith, and I can lean into that. And obviously it's not being a perfect father. We understand that. But I think that was enough foundation. And the reality was, what I've come to understanding is, from that experience, the deep, what you talked about, trauma work around that, I am the father I am today because of my father. It was like this beautiful, loving space. Instead of like, I don't want to be my father. I don't want to be my father. It's like, wow, the gifts that were presented because of that experience gave me this permission and invitation to be a father.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to call that. And I love that work. I love what you were doing when you talked about it. And that's why I want people to really hear it from you. Again, this is your baby. And I think it's needed for all the men out there, again, planning to be fathers, amongst the days of being fathers, wherever you might be. Just the work in itself, again, that is just part of what you do.
Yeah.
But Mike does this really beautiful work with men as well. So whether that's on the horizon tomorrow or 9 months from now, if there's anybody in your life, really working on the embodiment, the masculinity work, the emotional regulation stuff, looking at your belief systems that are keeping you stuck in stories that are affecting, all facets of your life.
Yeah.
So Mike does beautiful work. So again, love the fathers to be. I'm a huge fan of the work that you do. You already know that. I've called him crying. Yes, it's true. Because like I said, I am on the wrong side of my face. I need to see me where I'm not seeing me.
Yeah.
I think we come in almost as auxiliary consciousness, right? I'm stuck somewhere. And then you just show up as that auxiliary consciousness. I'm like, oh, wow.
Well,
So simple.
I'm very grateful and honored to serve you in those moments. And, we learn from each other. I think we all do. And I agree. I mean, no matter what area in your life you're at, whatever part of your journey you're at, whether somewhere in you're single and you're going to be a father one day, everything you do now will absolutely prepare you for that. So even though you may not have your ideal partner or a partner, but you have something in you that is saying, I will be a father one day. Or you're in a relationship trying or wanting to try at some point or any point of the journey, whether it's paternal instinct, because again, paternal instinct niche is soon to be fathers. It doesn't mean that someone who isn't having a baby right away won't benefit from it, because that information is beyond fatherhood. I wanted to make a course that applied more than just to soon to be fathers, meaning I wanted it to hit every area: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. I wanted it to really be a deep learning and deep teaching. And but even beyond that, I work with a lot of women and men around habits, setting up your life. Of course, first and foremost, we got to become aware of that which is in the way, and we have to release that which is in the way, process that, feel that. And then from there, it's like, okay, now that you're seeing more clearly, a lot of people say, well, now what? Okay, We need to strategize and look at your life and set up the habits, set up the skills, set up the behavior, set up all of the things, even if it is skill acquisition that you're looking for, or it's just straight up your vision of your life. Who are you going to be in 10 years and 9 years and 8 years and 7 years? What are you going to feel as a result of being that person? What are you going to be doing as that person? What are you going to be needing to have along the way as signs on the side of a highway? It's like I gave this analogy today to a potential new client. I said to him that we're like ships at sea wanting to go to this amazing island we see on the forefront of the waves, and we see the island, but we're not moving. And the reason we're not moving is because our anchor, 1,000 fucking pound anchor, is propelled into our roots. I mean, propelled into the ground. When we cut that out, or when we trim that baggage, when we let go of what we need to, if we don't steer and put in any sort of directions and allow everything to happen the way they are, you probably won't hit the island you want to hit. And we look at that island, even if you see it or if you don't see it, you know it's out there. That's your ideal life. The boat itself is you. And everyone that's working on the boat is your unconscious mind. The engine.
That's right.
So again, it's like, yes, first and foremost, you got to address anything that's keeping you in the quicksand. And then from there, it's clarifying where you're going, putting in the coordinates. And it's not about being rigid. I have to be there. I must have these criteria. It's not about that. It's about giving yourself some good bumpers of like direction. Where am I going to channel all this new energy toward? And that's what the course around fatherhood is about. All this new energy that you're feeling, all the fear, all the beauty, all of it. Where are you channeling it? Because if you're not channeling it toward the type of father you want to be, then you're going to be pulled into every emotional storm. You're going to be pulled into every fear. You're going to feel like a little bit out of control at times. And I have a phrase like, wouldn't it be a lot more beneficial to choose to fall apart consciously than to allow life to throw you and smack you around like a doll? Take back your agency. Take back the power that God gave you as a co-creator, and start to directionalize your life. And so the fatherhood is one angle. I believe that course hits all other angles too, because it is deep. And then there's so many other angles. There's relationships, there's career, there's spirituality, purpose and energy. There's personal growth, your relationship with self, your mental and emotional state. There's physical health. There's a lot of different angles, but it's all leading to who you want to be, what you want to feel. I mean, think about this for a second. What are we doing or having that isn't for a feeling? We're in a relationship to feel loved, accepted, seen, even forgiven. We go and work out to feel strong, feel the vitality, feel the energy in our body, feel like we're capable. Everything that we're putting action toward is to feel. It comes back to being. So in the alchemy, I mean, specifically for fathers to be, soon to be fathers, you're in the most transformational pocket of your life, straight up. And then the second pocket of that life, as far as what's most transformational, is eventually when you got to let go of your child, and he or she is off in the world, and you got to deal with all that. And I have no idea what that feels like. I'm not even going to.
No, me neither.
And even from your vantage point, I don't know what it feels like to have an 11, 12-year-old either. So it's like, that's why I'm not teaching how to be a father. I'm teaching how to prepare for fatherhood, because the frameworks apply. And I probably am going to figure out that they apply as a father. And
absolutely.
But there's going to say iterations of it that'll shift around focuses and
I'm sure you're a visionary, man. You're going to put it all together. It's going to all come in.
It'll come together. But
I trust it. I trust it. Yeah.
100%, man.
Whoa. And with that, man, I don't know. That was just beautifully put there at the end. I think that was all it. Mike, so honored, man. I can't wait to get up and see your land. I am 100%. Going to, obviously, I'll have all the ways that you can get in contact with Mike here on the little caption underneath. So reach out, see what he's up to. If any of these things, again, he does work co-ed, right? So that is also available amongst this beautiful thing that he's putting together with Fathers to Be. Mike, Man, miss you, brother. It
Miss
was
you.
hard when you moved away. I already told you that, but I
Yeah,
can't wait
yeah.
to see you.
Absolutely,
And
man. Thanks for having me,
yeah,
man. I appreciate
I don't know if I have anything more to say after that, because the way you wrap that into this beautiful package, there's no need to touch it. There's no need to touch that.
appreciate, man. Well,
Anyway, so again, thanks everybody for tuning in. This is Man Uncaved. I am Shane, as we need to come out of hiding.